And again, verse 15. Earlier, Paul says, no church communicated with me, shared with me, as concerning giving and receiving. And in identifying with Paul, in sharing their material goods with him, they shared in his afflictions and so exemplified what our creed calls the communion of the saints. Because we share in Jesus Christ and draw our life out of one common head, then we share what we have with one another. And that honours the Lord Jesus. Paul rejoiced in this, greatly rejoiced in this. He's very glad because their care is flourishing, because they're bringing forth fruit, and because here they are identifying with him under house arrest in Rome. And in receiving this gift, the apostle identifies it, or rather sees it, in the line of previous gifts that he has received from them. Verse 15. Now ye Philippians know also that in the beginning of the gospel in the continent of Europe, when he first came into Greece in Acts 16, when I departed from Macedonia, that is, when I left Philippi, my first port of call, and headed south and west, no church communicated with me as concerning giving and receiving, but ye only. For even in Thessalonica ye sent once and again unto my necessity. So here's the idea. This ties in with Paul's second missionary journey. He leaves Philippi. He heads, as I said, west and south, comes to Thessalonica, and while he's there, he is supported by no other church, though he isn't admonishing or rebuking the other churches, except the Philippians. And then they supported him on two separate occasions. That's the idea of verse 16. Even in Thessalonica, ye sent once, first time, and again, second time, unto my necessity. So when Paul receives this gift, he remembers back several years and said, you did this before. You did this before. When you were a very young church, and nobody else was doing it, you did it. And you did it twice. And then came a period in which you had no opportunity to help me. There were no occasions. And now that I'm chained in Rome, another occasion has arisen, and you've sent another gift, which is good fruit. So Paul is very quick to remember the previous instances of similar care and love for him. Some of you might recall the great love that the Galatians had for him. He mentions this in Galatians 4 verse 15. He says, if it were possible, you would have plucked out your own eyes and given them to me. But then in came the false teachers, taught justification by faith and works, alienated them against Paul. And he says to them, am I now become your enemy because I tell you the truth? So with the Galatians, the love had changed to enmity. But by God's grace it changed back again to love. But it wasn't so with the Philippians. They loved the Apostle Paul since he had served in their conversion. Think Acts 16 again. Think Lydia at the ladies' prayer meeting by the river. Think the poor wench that was saved from a life of fortune telling. Think the Philippian jailer, that hardened old man. And then think that when they were very young Christians, just when Paul had gone a few miles down the road, there they were, giving sacrificially to help him. And then from that time a constant love for the apostle, and then when they had opportunity, when they knew Paul was in bonds in Rome and could do with their help, they gave him a gift. Sent it many hundreds of miles to the west from northern Greece, in our language, to Rome. So Paul rejoiced greatly. So Paul takes this opportunity to encourage and commend this church for their godly walk. Notwithstanding, he says in verse 14, you have well done that ye did share with me in my affliction. Your gift to me is noble, excellent. It's a beautiful thing. Be encouraged. Keep doing what you're doing, he writes to these dear Philippians. There's much here, of course, that's instructive for us too, and you'll have felt it as this passage is opened up and explained. And the first and most obvious thing is that Paul's joy was not because of their gift, but because of the giver. He sought and desired not monetary gain, but their fruit. He sought that they would have fruit reckoned to their account. That's the language of verse 17. I do not desire a gift. I desire, says the apostle, this is what I want for you, fruit that may abound to your account. And this is a legal thing, a ledger, accounting. That God may write this down as a good work in heaven that you have done by grace. That's what I want for you. And this too is what the church council wants, and what I want for you. Fruit. Much fruit. Godly fruit. Godly fruit that may abound and remain. This is the goal and purpose of the Christian church with each and every one of its members. I am the vine, ye are the branches. Herein is my Father glorified, and herein we're fulfilling our role in keeping covenant with God, if ye bear much fruit. How did the Apostle John put it? I have no greater joy than to hear that my children walk in the truth. 3 John verse 4. He uses the word joy, the same word Paul uses throughout Philippians, and here in verse 10. I have no greater joy. No greater joy. Nothing brings me more joy, said John, than to see you walk in the truth. I've given my life for it. I'm an old man. This is it. You walking in the truth. That's what brings me joy. This is the good fruit which rejoices the hearts of your minister and the council, and of course of godly members in the congregation. When you see the members of the church encouraging one another, supporting one another, visiting those who are sick, enjoying each other's company, loving one another, men shall know you are my disciples if you love one another. To see family devotions being started, continuing, and bringing forth fruit in the congregation. To hear of members talking about their witnessing to workmates and neighbours and encouraging them to follow Jesus Christ. To witness, as we witness too, marriages deepening and children learning what it is to honour their parents, and wives learning what it is to submit to their husbands. When you come in family visitation, visit the families, and there's none of us perfect, and there's nobody expects anybody to become perfect, never mind become perfect quickly, but you see improvement, some improvement. And you can say there's improvement each year. They're growing. They're growing. You see people coming on as the months and the years pass. This is the goal of the office bearers. This is what Christ sets before us and what the whole work is about. I have no greater joy than to see my children walk in the truth. That's what encourages and puts gladness in the heart of the office bearers in the congregation and the other saints.